Have you ever just stopped for a second and really thought about what a miracle your own body is? I mean, right now, as you're listening to this, there's this incredible, invisible genius working inside you, just keeping you alive, keeping you you. So, how does it all actually work? Let's dive in and find out.
It all starts with a question that's just staggering in its scale. Your body isn't one single thing, right? It's more like a massive, bustling city of somewhere between 35 and 40 trillion individual cells. How on earth do they all coordinate to act like one single unified person? Well, the best way to think about it is like a social order, a giant society of cells. Every cell has its own job, from carrying oxygen to fighting off germs, and they all depend on each other to survive. But for a society this huge to work, it needs a very, very specific kind of environment. And that brings us to the first big secret. See, your cells don't actually live in the outside world that you and I see every day. They live in this protected, private world. Kind of like a private ocean that you carry around with you everywhere you go. Think about it. Your cells just couldn't handle the crazy temperature swings, all the different chemicals, or the physical chaos of the outside world. It would be way too much for them. So what the body does is create a buffer, a special fluid that insulates every single one of your cells from that harsh reality. And this really shows you the difference, doesn't it? Outside, everything's unpredictable. But inside, your body is working tirelessly to keep that environment perfectly stable, perfectly nurturing, and controlled down to the most minute detail. It's an incredible feat. This whole idea of an internal ocean is so fundamental to life that way back in the 19th century, a physiologist named Claude Bernard actually gave it a special name, the milia interior. It's basically the fluid that surrounds all your cells, bringing them everything they need and taking away all the waste. This is the real secret to how we survive. Okay, so if the body has this perfectly stable internal ocean, how does it keep it so stable? That question brings us to one of the most important ideas in all of biology. It's what we can call the Great Balancing Act. And this constant quest for stability has a name: homeostasis. This is the central principle of your body. Pretty much every organ, every tissue, everything is performing functions all day, every day, 24/7 to help maintain these constant conditions. And it does it all without you ever having to think about it.
And here is where it gets absolutely mind-boggling. Just look at how narrow these margins for life actually are. Your body temperature is kept in this tight little range. If it drops to 65 or spikes up to 110, that's it. That's the limit. Blood glucose has a bit more wiggle room, but it's still meticulously managed. You stray too far from these numbers, and the whole system just starts to fall apart. Let's just zoom in on one of these for a second, okay? Your blood pH, its level of acidity, is normally 7.4. If that number changes by just half a point, up or down, it's lethal. That is the razor's edge your body is walking every single second of every single day. So the big question is, how does your body stay so perfectly balanced?
Well, the answer lies in our body's absolutely brilliant automatic control systems. And the real unsung hero of this whole operation, the mechanism that makes all of homeostasis possible, is something called negative feedback.
The principle behind it is actually pretty simple. If any factor in your body, let's say your temperature or blood pressure, starts to drift too high or too low, a control system kicks into gear. It starts a series of changes that are negative or opposite to whatever that initial disturbance was, pushing that factor right back to where it should be. Let's see how this works in real life. Let's take blood pressure. So imagine your blood pressure gets a little too high. Instantly, these tiny nerve receptors in your arteries, they feel that extra stretch. They shoot an urgent message up to your brain. The brain acts like a command center, and it immediately tells your heart to pump a little bit slower and tells your blood vessels to relax. And just like that, boom, your blood pressure comes right back down. It's a perfect self-correcting loop. But what happens if this feedback system works in the opposite direction? What if instead of fixing a problem, it just makes it worse and worse? Well, that's when things get really dangerous. This is kind of like the dark twin of negative feedback. See, positive feedback doesn't correct for change. It amplifies it, pushing it further and further away from normal, creating instability. So while negative feedback is literally the key to life, positive feedback can often be a spiral towards disaster. In physiology, it's actually known as a vicious cycle. For example, if someone bleeds very badly, their heart weakens because it's not getting enough blood flow. But that weaker pumping then reduces the blood flow to the heart muscle even more, which weakens it further. Each step just makes the last one worse, spiraling downward until the whole system can fail completely.
But, and this is so cool, the body is so smart that it's figured out how to use this dangerous runaway train effect for good in a few special cases. Blood clotting, for instance, is a positive feedback loop. It's designed to quickly plug a leak. Childbirth uses it to build contractions until they're powerful enough. So it's an extreme tool, but the body uses it only when it needs a really rapid, explosive result.
So let's zoom back out for a second. All of this, the internal ocean, the constant balancing act, all of these feedback loops, it's all happening automatically right now inside you. It's this quiet, invisible miracle. And this really brings us all the way back to that idea of a cellular society. This quote says it perfectly. The whole system works because it's a two-way street. The stability of that internal environment keeps all the cells alive, and in return, every single cell does its part to help maintain that exact stability. It's the ultimate cooperative.
So, what does this all mean for you and me? It's actually pretty simple. When you feel healthy, what you're really experiencing is the harmony of homeostasis. And when you feel sick, you're experiencing a state where that delicate, invisible dance has been disrupted. And that leaves us with one last thing to really think about. We spend so much of our lives trying to be in control of things. But our very existence, our life, depends on this unbelievably complex, intelligent system that operates almost entirely out of our conscious control. It's a humbling and truly awe-inspiring thing to realize.